Okay, so for those that don't know me, my name is Rich Byrne. I'm from WSX Enterprise, and I mainly manage a project called the Dorset Growth Hub. So I'm based here in Dorset, but we run projects all across the South Coast. So welcome to those that are from Dorset today, and also welcome to those joining from other areas. So my role essentially with the Dorset Growth Hub and WSX Enterprise is focusing in on digital, really, digital to help businesses. So part of the project that we run, which is EU funded, it's about digital capabilities. So how can myself, my team and partners that we work with help businesses to kind of better understand how digital can improve their business through efficiencies, through growth, through sales, through better marketing. And that's kind of the role I've been doing for the past few years, really. As things have changed a lot in recent weeks, what we decided to do was start running this series. We normally do our events live in person, but we decided to go online for obvious reasons. And we came up with this concept, adapting with digital. Just so that we could each week pick a subject that we knew was relevant, that we knew had maybe evolved or is currently evolving as we speak, and then get in guest speakers to help give a perspective and insight and share their working knowledge at the moment and some of the changes and how they're adapting their businesses and how they're working with other businesses to help them adapt. So we've covered quite a lot of subjects in recent weeks. I'm just going to find, what is it? I'm not on there. Okay, I have missed that slide out. There's some episodes that I had listed, but I will see if I can find them. Nope, I've taken it out. Okay. My apologies. Anyway, some of the subjects that we have covered, we've looked at cybersecurity for those that are working from home, just giving some key tips and insights to help those businesses just understand what they can do and be cautious of them stuff that is currently happening at the moment. We've also looked at branding. We had guest speaker Matt Desmio a couple of weeks ago. So looking at branding now and branding moving forwards. And I think Matt's kind of key tip was about not going dark. You know, it's more important than ever to keep your presence and awareness of you and your company out there, especially through digital means. And we've also looked at e-commerce and switching to selling online. We had Jamie Derrick join us on an episode. And so I won't go through all of the episodes, but we're up to episode 8 now. And what we've seen in recent weeks is this demand, not too dissimilar to before where we are today with COVID, but this demand for digital marketing insight. So we had a social media webinar a couple of weeks ago, which was hugely popular. So from that and a bit of feedback that we've got, we realized that a digital marketing focus was what we were going to look at today. And what we'll do over the next couple of weeks is we will focus on the digital marketing theme. Now, I'm really cautious as someone who's been in the marketing world for quite a few years, but then sort of stepped aside from marketing and looked at digital and what it encompasses in general. It isn't just about marketing, but it's a huge part of it. So it requires a broad approach to it, I guess. So what my guest speaker today, who is Andy Headington, who's from Adido, the attention agency, he will join us in a second. He's on the call and he will be doing a presentation. So Andy's going to kind of set that scene about digital marketing. And then over the coming weeks, we're going to have other guest speakers come in and join us to go a bit deeper dive on some of those areas. So I, in years gone by, obviously worked in marketing, worked as marketing manager, marketing exec in different places. But digital has been something that I, in the past 4 or 5 years, I've really had to hone in on and understand it. Still to this day, I would never position myself as a digital marketing expert. I mean, even I'm sure Andy on some occasions would have challenges where things have evolved for them as an agency. And I'm sure in these times it's massively evolving for them. But kind of what Andy will do today is give you that context and some top tips that can help you now where we are. Okay. So just a little agenda, just on timings, just so you know what's happening. So I've just done my little intro and now we're going to have guest speaker Andy Headington join us to give a talk for about 25 to 30 minutes. And then what we'll do is a Q&A with Andy at the end of that. So you get a chance to ask questions. We'll keep it all on the chat function. if that's okay, just because there's quite a few of you on the call. If we open up the mics, it all becomes a bit tricky and a bit confusing and hard to manage that. So if you have questions, please put them in the chat function. And then what I will do is cherry pick some of those, and I'll ask Andy at the end, so that you all get your input and a chance to engage with myself and Andy on this webinar. And then what we'll do is we'll wrap that up, and I'll just talk about what's happening in the next couple of weeks and tell you about some other stuff that the Growth Hub's doing and WSX in the coming weeks. Just a bit of housekeeping. If for any reason this call gets cut off, we are using technology. Sometimes it has its issues. If the call gets cut off, then just use the same link to join back in onto the webinar, and it should work fine. If I suspect there's any foul play or potential of a Zoom bombing, it has only happened once many weeks ago, but the system now is far more secure than it ever was. That shouldn't happen. But if I suspect something's happening or someone is in this webinar who shouldn't be, then I will cut the call, but then I will relaunch it again. So as Andy's talking, I'll just be monitoring everything and make sure it all runs smoothly for us all and creates a safe kind of learning environment. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I'm going to ask Andy if I think he switched his mic on. I will let Andy introduce himself and talk about who he is and what he does, because he's far better at it than probably I am. So it's over to you, Andy.
Very good morning, everybody. I hope we are all well and keeping safe and sane in these very interesting times that we find ourselves in. Hopefully everyone can see the screen that I've shared. Thumbs up on the videos. Yep, good. I've mastered the art of Zoom. Okay, so yes, as Rich said, I've got about 20-25 minutes to share some of our experiences and agency around what's happening right now, and hopefully give you 10 tips that you can probably go away with. I say back to your office is what I usually say, back to your desks, wherever you are today, to put into practice. What I really want from all of these talks I've ever done is just for people to take one or two things away and actually implement them, because it's no real good if you're spending your time here for half an hour trying to learn stuff and then none of it actually comes to fruition. So my hope and my plea is that you listen to some of these things today and you go, okay, I can do one of those things or some of those things. You put them into practice, and any feedback you can give to me or Rich or anyone at the Growth Hub would be really good, just to know we're making some real difference. So very quickly, just about me, if you've never heard of Adido, I've not met most of you on this call, so hello. I run an agency called Adido based in the centre of Bournemouth. We've been there since 2003. Since 2003, I've been working in predominantly search marketing, although digital marketing is the wider remit that our company looks at nowadays. And I've been speaking on that subject for, I'd say, about 15 or so years. I've done hundreds of talks across the UK. And in the last 10 to 15 years, we've seen big changes to technology. I can remember using very early dial-up in the late 90s and having to boot my mum off the phone and plug the modem in and take the phone line up for an hour. We've now got more power in our mobile phones than I think we had in computers that sent us to the moon in the 60s. So it's fascinating the change that we've seen, and will continue to be fascinating. New technologies coming out all the time, like Alexa and VR and all that sort of stuff is all very interesting and may change things again. I'm also, for my sins, chair of Silicon South, an organisation helping digital agencies, creative agencies in the region, and also Digital South, which is a group based in Hampshire, who are again trying to use technology to enable businesses to be more effective, more productive, and more profitable. So I've got lots and lots of experience. Some of it, as I say, is going to be shared today to your advantage, and maybe some of you in the call have got similar pain to me. We are trying to juggle your work, and these are my 3 children from a very recent photo. It caused me lots of joy and frustration, I think you'll say. As an agency, we've won lots of different awards over lots of period of time, so I'm not going to go into that, but the things we're talking about today are things that we've done for our clients to help them win stuff. In the last year or two, I've been doing talks. It's all been about Brexit. How do you navigate digital marketing more effectively through the Brexit times, and now we're in the Corona times. it's been very interesting to see the impact of the last few months. In the last few months, it's almost felt like the last few years in terms of the changes we've seen. This is some information produced by Google, who've obviously got lots of information through Maps and Android that shows how people have reacted physically to the lockdown that's happened. So this shows the movement versus baseline in different areas and different industries and different sectors. So in terms of retail and recreation, 80% less happening there than normal in the last 2 months. In terms of transit or whatever, those things have massively dropped. Going to work, these numbers I think are going to stay very similar, certainly for the next month or two. Hopefully you personally haven't been too affected, or you don't know people that have, but there's always advantages and opportunities that can come out of these times, which again we're going to go through. The first being, obviously, digital's been massively important for a very, very long time. And with the lockdown happening, the recent research seems to suggest we're spending more and more time on the platforms we were already spending a lot of time on, and connecting to people through, social media, messenger services, etc. We're seeing big growth in those sources, and hence why we're doing these calls today. So if you've not taken advantage of digital marketing, tried some of these things before, some cases there's a big opportunity here than it's ever been. Unfortunately, from the marketing perspective, I'm part of a few different groups. This one's called Agency Hackers. Most marketing campaigns have been pulled. Most marketing people, or a lot of marketing people, have been furloughed. There's lots of gaps around lots of businesses. So again, there's opportunities here where lots of people are turning off their budgets. For you to maybe dip your toe in the water at a time where maybe things are a little bit less competitive than they perhaps were. Now, before I go into sort of 10 tips about Corona and the Corona times, for a lot of people, they still don't really appreciate the size and scale of the businesses that we're talking about. So I just want to give a little bit of context for a couple of minutes about what I call the digital monopolies, because effectively there's really only 4 or 5 companies we need to be thinking about and concerned about and channeling our energies into being efficient on to really win. This is a graph which I found massively interesting. What a company did some research a couple of years ago to look at, I think it was 1,000 people over 6 weeks, and how they use their mobile phone and what things they touch when they're using their mobile phone. So on average each day, we touch our phone about 2,500 times, which is quite a staggering number. And of those touches that we put onto our mobile phone, roughly half are through Facebook and Google. So yes, there's lots of opportunity for apps, and yes, there's lots of opportunity to reach niche audiences, but realistically, you need to be focusing on Facebook and Google in terms of reaching people as the channels through mobile phone, and obviously desktop as well. Facebook is the #1 platform on social media. It has been for pretty much a decade. WhatsApp is a massively growing platform. It's owned by Facebook. Instagram is probably peaking. That's also owned by Facebook. So when it comes to social media and things through apps on your phone, it's basically Facebook controlled largely. And those audiences do differ by age. This is a US set of statistics. Broadly speaking, it's the same in the UK. So if you are looking at Instagram as a way to reach people, it's typically a younger audience. Facebook is pretty flat across nearly every age group. So again, if you're trying to reach maybe older people or young, there's a great opportunity there. And this is a global opportunity. It doesn't have to necessarily be people in the UK. Whilst there's big numbers and big growth still happening in the mature markets, such as the US and the EU, really there's not a lot of growth there. Everybody who's going to be on Facebook is pretty much on there. People are still joining Instagram who are new to it. But Facebook is very, very mature now. And the average user of a Facebook account, I think, is female and something like 43 years old. So when sometimes people think of Facebook as a kid's thing, it's very much probably a mum's and a parent's thing now. And again, interestingly, the number at the bottom hasn't changed. The monthly average users and the daily average users, 66% of people on a 2-year rolling set of numbers each day use Facebook. So those 2 billion people, 2/3 of them use it every single day, which is about 1.3 billion, which is again a crazy number. So opportunity there to reach lots of people, and predominant through mobile. Facebook did some lot of pivoting a few years ago to get into mobile and apps, and they've done that through mobile advertising. So if you're not on Facebook and not pushing any adverts, then it's probably something to look at, and we'll talk about in a minute. In terms of search engines and Google, Google is number one in the UK. It has been for several decades. Just the size and the scale of the difference between Google and the rest is why it's basically a monopoly. It's not an imposed monopoly. It's just when we all decide that everyone wants to use Google. You could use Bing and it's just as good as Google, but nobody does it. So realistically, you've got to think about Google. And Google makes most of its money through its pay-per-click advertising. And again, going back in my rose-tinted glasses, back in the good old days, it's very obvious and very easy to see where those paid adverts were, and they were quite small and discreet. These days in 2020, they take up more and more space, and the opportunity for the organic listings it does seem to decrease every year. Google's used that money they've made in the last decade and diversified, so they now make 15% of their revenue through other services like Android, like Google Pay, etc. Whereas 10 years ago, it was just 3%. So they've really used that money well. They're getting to more things. But what Google's also doing is pushing more PPC ads through those bigger spaces. They're also decreasing the number of clicks that they're pushing through to websites. So this is 0-click search percentage. A few years ago, it was around 44%. That meant somebody did a search and they didn't click on any of the results, perhaps because they got an answer that they wanted. It's now up to nearly 50%. So Google's cutting off the traffic that was giving website providers historically and just keeping that traffic for itself. So they're pushing more PPC, cutting off traffic to other people, and the PPC clicks that are there, the cost of them is going up gradually over a period of time. So we're looking at about 60 cents per click compared to about 40 a few years ago. So again, if you're in this space, you're spending money, you need to get clever, you need to get smarter, you need to be more efficient. And I'll come on some ideas about how you might do that. The other thing I just wanted to say and again highlight is, we're at a very mature point of the internet now. There's not really many new things that you can be thinking about to do that aren't already being done. Yes, you may see TikTok videos or you may hear about it in the news, but that's a very niche platform still. It's a very young audience. This is a graph that shows the traffic composition of one of my clients of the last 12 months, sort of basically pre-COVID to the 12 months before. And whilst the numbers are up, the percentages are basically the same across the board. So if you're not doing paid search, if you're not doing some SEO, if you're not doing email marketing, those are the things to start with first before anything flashy or anything else that might take your thoughts. So these are trends that have been in play for about 20 years. I use this as a sort of a slide to really just try and hammer home the point that what we know from the past doesn't really lend itself that well to what's going on right now. The whole world has been shaken up quite significantly. I think it announced today 2% drop in GDP in the UK last quarter. It's probably going to move more like 10-15%, one of the biggest recessions we've probably ever seen. So whilst these data and these numbers are valid, and they will be valid going forward, we've got to be very, very flexible for the rest of the year and beyond to really adapt to the time. So using the past to predict the future is really going to be very, very hard. It's more important than ever to listen to your clients, look at your market, understand what's going on, because those are the people that are going to be perhaps your clients in the future. And the more we can understand their pain, more we can understand their problems, the more chance we've got of succeeding. We also need to be aware these big platforms have seen massive cuts to their budgets, as I say, so they're going to be trying to get some money back. We need to be doing organic content and also paying for that traffic to come through, and those paid sources are getting more and more complicated. So again, I'll talk about that in a second. But you can be quite sophisticated and get really quite clever with things if you're really serious about it to get better results. You don't just have to be very gung-ho. If you're very nuanced and you can take a sort of technical approach, you might get some good results. And the way we've managed to do that in the last couple of years is really just having really good data about our clients' businesses and the things that make people buy. Historically, it's been spend £100, get £500 back, and I'm happy with that. Increasingly, that 500 goes to 450, 400, 350, 300, and then you think, well, what am I doing wrong? What's happened? It used to work, and now it doesn't. If we don't know what data points are working, what keywords are working, what channels are working, then it makes it very hard to make good decisions about where budget should be spent and how they can be spent. So having good data will be your good and unfair advantage going forward. And the more you can link those data points up, went to an exhibition, they signed an email newsletter, they read the email newsletter 10 times, made an inquiry, etc., the better you're going to be able to make decisions going forward. So just to hammer home that point, the internet is very mature. There's no quick win. There's no hack. There's no button you can press that gets you, lots and lots of leads. If there was, then my God, I'd be doing it right now. But it's about really putting a lot of time and effort in over a period of weeks, months, and years, learning from experts, coming back to these seminars, seeing what's working and being consistent. That's really my number one tip. And if you can take anything away from today, that you're just going to have to grind away like everybody else does to see success. Maybe with a little bit of expert insights, then that's the best way to really approach your marketing. So I've got about 10 minutes left. There's 10 tips that I think are worth sharing that I think you're going to benefit from, and hopefully you do. The first is really just about your spending on any advertising. If you're doing it, the first thing you may think, and we've done a lot of this ourselves, is just cut everything. Right, I need to cut my costs. Can't afford to spend any money advertising right now. I need to focus on survival, and that's a very, very good decision to make for most businesses. But if you have the opportunity to spend some money, we've had recessions before, and businesses that have and companies have analysed recessions, and businesses that have marketed through it have usually seen an uplift when things have turned more positive. Now, this applies to big brands. I think you can take some of it away from for small businesses, even like ourselves. But if you can't afford to maybe invest in your brand and awareness, then certainly the opportunity right now, very specifically now, is that a lot of people have come out of the market. So these paid channels are based on auctions. The more people in the auction, the higher the price. Some of the advertisers we're running, some of our clients we're running ads for, we're seeing around 30 to 50% drop in cost per click because lots of people have come out, and therefore there's the opportunity to put your ads back up at maybe half the price you were paying just a couple of months ago. This is a case-by-case basis. It's not blanket. If you haven't done any of this before, you're never really going to know. But from our clients and what we're seeing, typically you can make quite a big saving on your advertising budget. So if you can afford a little bit of money, it's probably worth doing it now when it's cheaper than it's ever been. Secondly, if you are paying for money, paying for adverts, and you're using Google Ads, lots of people tend to pay for traffic on their brand. So for me, that would be running an advert against the word Adido or Adido Digital when people type it into Google. That advert will come top of the list, people will click on it, and then they'll come through to my website. I'm paying for that traffic, and realistically, you don't need to be doing that. This is a client we worked with, Hoburn, you may know them, Dorset and Cornwall. We did lots of tests with them over a couple of years, and we managed to save them about 20-25% of their annual paid media budget by not bidding on their brand terms. So if you're spending money on your brand terms, turn it off. You don't need to spend that money, and most likely you'll see the uptick come in the organic listings. Third thing, if you are using Google Ads right now, or even if you haven't and you're going to trial a campaign, make sure that you're looking at the data on an ongoing basis. Maybe it's daily, maybe it's weekly, ideally no less than monthly, because different devices will behave differently. And if we're really trying to cut all of the extra and nice bits of our campaigns to just be the core things that really work, then looking at maybe by device, looking at time of day, looking at the different phrases you're bidding on, allows you to then be a bit more cutthroat. I can only spend £500 this month, £300 this month. I will only bid on computers because that's where I've had the best results historically. And this example here, it was costing more than twice as much to get customers from a tablet device than it was computers. Why am I wasting my budget on those areas where people are not buying, or certainly costing me more money to acquire the customer? The fourth thing you can do is just review your website. I assume most people who have a website is probably built on something like WordPress. or some other free system, now is a good time to just maybe spend a few hours cleaning through the pages you've got and thinking about what you want that page to rank for, and making sure you've done the most basic things possible to increase your chances of being found. So here, for example, I typed in 5 best family days out in Birmingham, or best days out in Birmingham. This is the best title tag of these 3 here, because it has got the key phrase that I want to be ranking for. And this bit underneath called the description, again, is very nicely written, as opposed to the ones at the top where Google's basically stuck things together. So if you're looking at your content and looking at your pages in your website, make sure the title tag on the page that you want to rank for is about 60 characters. Anything longer than that, Google seems to ignore it. And the meta description is the thing that will appear on the search results, needs to be about 130 characters. These have sort of changed over the years, but it's going to be roughly right going forward. And if you've not done this, it's just it should be a half an hour job, an hour job on a Friday afternoon. Just make sure you're doing the right things in the right places. If you want to go a little bit deeper, this is again basic fundamental stuff for ranking in search engines. Do a speed page test. There's a link at the bottom here. You can just type in your own website address and Google shows you how fast your website is according to them. If your pages are quite slow, then it's going to really impact your chance of ranking well on the search results. So just spend, again, 2 minutes putting this in. If you think, what on earth does all this mean? Send it to your web developer and go, is there anything you can do to maybe make this website faster? Because again, over a period of time, things slow down, servers get clogged up, etc. Just do some basic checks that will help you rank better in the search results. Number 5, if you're spending time on social media, are you using social media to get sales? Are you posting onto Facebook? Are you posting onto Instagram because you're hoping to generate leads? If so, maybe for your industry that works very, very well. But my experience of speaking to lots of people is they do it primarily for branding. Sometimes I have a false expectation of I'm going to post things onto Facebook and get loads of sales, or I've reached 1 million people. Okay, you've reached 1 million people, but so what? Have you got any bookings? Have you got any ticket sales? Have you got new customers off the back of it? Most of the time when we see traffic come through to a website from social, it doesn't convert. This is an example here. I can't remember what client this is, but you can see here the conversion rate is pretty terrible. The sales are pretty terrible. Some of these stats are actually wrong, which I'll talk about in a second. But if you're trying to get more sales through your business right now and you're spending budget, then probably Google is a better bet. And doing some of the things I just talked about in Google Ads will probably see better success. Now, the other thing you can do with Google Ads and Facebook Ads and the other platforms is what's called remarketing. Now, Google Ads does really nicely by linking up with Google Analytics if you've got that on your website, and you can see where people have made, how far they've come through your website pages and maybe where they've fallen out. So if you've got an e-commerce shop, great example where someone will add something to a basket they didn't then buy. Remarketing allows you to understand those people and then put adverts back to them on other websites so that they can see the thing that perhaps they were interested in. Now, you probably experienced this yourself with being hunted around. Maybe you looked at a new shed at the weekend, and now everywhere you go, that shed is following you around. This is where it's not been implemented as well as it could have done. But if you're good and use this in the right way, or someone that can put it up, you can see some very good returns for not a lot of money, based off people who've already engaged with you, already know what you're looking to sell, and you can try and benefit from that. So this is an example that I found. They managed to generate £10,000 of holiday bookings, add 1,500 people to their database by targeting people who'd already been on the site and showed some reasonably good behavior they wanted to target, push back on. So this is quite cheap, can be set up quite quickly, is worth trying. Number 7, if you are posting on Facebook and these social media platforms, then the more engagement you can get on your posts, the better. How do you generate engagement? It's usually through question-based posts. Don't just post, we're here, we're doing great, how was your Friday? Not really the most engaging types of post. The algorithm is really designed to find engaging posts and share them around, rather than just sort of sales messages all the time. So if you can be engaging, get people to comment and like stuff, that's going to see better reach and hopefully get more people, more awareness. Now, it's hard to do that. Facebook and the algorithms that they've changed over the last few years have really seen page reach drop quite significantly to around 3 or 4%. So if you are posting on Facebook and you're going, why is no one liking my page? Why is no one seeing it? It's probably because the reach is terrible. If you've got 500 people who like your page, 3 to 4% of them are actually going to see that. So it's going to be like 20 people out of 500. You can boost your pages through paying. You can set up ad campaigns that will also allow you to target your posts at people who are relevant. And that's probably going to be the best way you're going to see success on Facebook. If you want to beat those algorithms, number 9 tip is to use more email. This is just, again, general across the board, top level, but maybe you're in one of these different sectors here. The open rate on emails can vary between sort of 35 to 20%. Now, when you go back to the organic reach you get seeing on Facebook, if you post something on Facebook, 3 to 4% of people will see it. If you post an email to your database, you're going to get 20 to 30% of people seeing it. So if you're not doing any email marketing at the moment, it's a good time to start because, again, people are probably sitting at their desks more, looking at more email, or even if they're not doing that any more than usual, they still get very good open rates, and it's worth looking at. And my final tip is really around data and analytics. As I say, it can be a really good way of getting advantage, really spending the minimal amount you can, getting the most amount from your budget. Unfortunately, we had lots of clients come to us who say, I've got Google Analytics, it's all fine, it's all set up. We then look at how people's data is, and this is a unfortunately terrible example. If you look here, organic search, people typing stuff into Google, 53,000 people typed that in into this website. But only 0.014 of people bought 94 sales and £3,000 worth of revenue. Direct traffic, that's people who type in the www, your web address. For some reason, 5% of those people converted and it generated half of the revenue for this company, and the same with referrals. What this data says is the analytics on this website are wrong. The way that sales are being tracked is wrong. And for us to try and make a decision about whether paid search, whether social, whether SEO traffic is good or bad is impossible, because there is no alignment to traffic coming in and sales which are being recorded. It's just plain wrong, can't do anything. And the data we had here, we basically had to throw in the bin, set it all up correctly and start again. And only at that point could we then make decisions about what we were doing right and what we were doing wrong. We had no way of telling any other way. So if you're looking to use some of these channels I've just talked about, make sure that the priority thing you've got set up is your sales, your leads, your actions, whatever it is you're trying to record are working properly, because if not, it's all going to be a complete waste of time. So just make sure your house is in order and you'll see some success. So as I say, I just want you to make one change, time to action one thing. If you can do that, I'd be forever grateful. And hopefully you'll see some benefits. As I say, we don't really know what the future is going to hold, but neither do our competitors. We're all going through this together. There's opportunity here to build your brand on places where your audience is. As we've seen, they're probably more likely to be on social media now than before. Lots of people have come out of the auctions. So it's a good time, if you have money, to be in the game, and really just make sure that you're present, you're visible, either through spending budget or just creating content. If you can do the basics right on Google, or on Facebook, on Instagram, on email, those are things that are going to really see you get through this next 6 months. Don't worry about creating a TikTok account or whatever else you've heard. You're probably going to waste your time there. And if you can, make sure your data is correct. Make sure you've got everything in place. That's where you're going to get the best results from. So be adaptable, be persistent. It's a very changing market. I hope that you've got a few different things there you can maybe look at, maybe spend some time on this afternoon and put into place. And best of luck to everybody. And I hope you enjoyed that. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Thank you, Andy. Really, really succinct, really useful tips. Perfect. Just so we've got about sort of 5 minutes or so for questions. So I've got a few myself. If we start there, Andy, actually, it's almost kind of some reflections, really. And then I can see we've got a few questions also on the chat coming through now as well. So something that's very common that I see, Andy, that I actually don't think is any different even in these times. So in the work that the Growth Hub do, and probably with my marketing focus from over the years in different marketing roles, the one thing I've seen as a very common thread when it comes to digital marketing and marketing in general is sometimes a desire to jump into the digital world and feel that that is the place to be and to be engaging with people. But what I see a lack of often is why, and a kind of deeper insight into understanding your audience type. So that's something that we have always talked about, is about, actually, do you know what? Let's ignore digital for now and what it means in digital marketing. Let's focus on the audience. So do you think that is any different in these times, or actually is that even more important?
The opportunity for networking of face to face, it's how a lot of businesses who I know, and even ourselves, that's how we get a lot of our work. So networking is impossible right now. It's not going to happen this year, I don't think, or maybe in some very small instances. I think there's probably now the time, if you've not done anything like digital before, I know it's scary sometimes, I know it all sounds quite technical, but if you've not done it before, then you've lost your main route to market. And that's where I think your customers might be online now where perhaps they weren't before. Certainly, the number of Zoom calls I've been on or webinars I've seen, there's a route to market there where people are looking to learn still, they're looking to find out how to get advantage. And I think it's probably the time to do it. But as you say, completely rightly, who is the audience you're trying to reach? And even are they on these platforms? For a lot of us, a lot of the work that we've done, it's been referrals, it's been word of mouth. We don't put massive amount of energy into digital marketing for us, because that's perversely not how people buy our services sometimes. But for a lot of our clients, happy to go online and buy or inquire through a website. That's just how their market works and how their audience works. So you're 100% right. Don't just jump into this and go, I'm going to spend 500 quid on Facebook because someone told me. Are your audience on there? Are they likely to be on there? And are they going to, make the inquiry that you want?
And I guess that likelihood now is far higher than it ever would have been. So for pretty much, I would think everyone who is on this webinar today, digital marketing is definitely something to think more about, to do more of, or to reevaluate what they've currently been doing, or to start afresh without a shadow of a doubt. Yeah. But certainly it's that audience type. And the reason I focus on that as a kind of a discussion is for clarity, because a lot of people that we see are just blinded, I think, probably by the amount that's out there and the opportunities that you can create. So, but where do I start? And I think the almost maybe a tip from myself is just focusing on that target audience, understand them, do more market research, use digital means to do that market research, and then you can build your plan. And that's my next question, Andy, is how important is the planning of this, or do you just sort of jump in and see what happens?
I think you definitely need to do, if you're going to go onto Google or Facebook, Google specifically, you can see of the phrases you think people are going to be typing in, or maybe you can even ask some of your clients about what they would type in to find you. That's something we do every year. Put them into Google and see what volumes are going to be there in terms of opportunity, and what opportunities that's then going to cost, because each click that you get is going to cost you a certain amount of money. But definitely, if you've never done it before and you're doing it yourself, start small. Just spend £5 a day or something like that, £20 a week, and just watch it and see what happens to that traffic come through. Is it good? Does it bounce? Which is basically they click on the advert, they see your website page, and then they click back again. Now, if you've got a very high bounce rate, then that traffic is not very good. That's either down to your website not being very responsive, or not being very clear, or that's just the wrong people. Again, you can maybe push the traffic through to another page and see if it's got a better performance or not. But just start small and work up. I know of a guy, he started using Facebook ads about 5 years ago. He was spending up 50 quid a week, I think, and saw some good success. And I think he's now spending something like 20 or 30,000 pounds a month through just learning, testing, watching, evaluating, seeing results come through. So just start very, very small, build some confidence, and then from there, just see how far you can push it, really.
Great. Thanks, Andy. Okay, so a couple of questions from some of our attendees today. So we've got a question from, it's Justin Cohen. Justin, hey Justin, who works at ActorSense. Justin has said, Are IP tracking stroke lead forensic type sites worth the investment?
I think they can be, definitely. Again, it depends on your industry. So we've used lead forensics and other things before where for our clients, like a lead or a sale could be worth 50 grand, 100 grand. And to spend a couple of £100 a month on lead forensics, know the businesses that are coming through to the website, know then, with a bit of snooping on LinkedIn, Sales Navigator or LinkedIn, that if they've come from that company, it's got to be maybe those 5 people. And then you can maybe target some ads at them or do some outreach to them. I think if you've got a long life cycle and there's a high value of your product, then it's worth looking at, because you need to know the names and the people and the companies who are looking at your website to then market back to them. It can be a bit creepy, got to do it in the right way. But if you're just selling, chocolate online, it's a completely irrelevant. So it's really sort of weighing up the value of that data and actually using it. We had it for ourselves for a few years and we didn't really proactively use it enough. So we didn't get the value from it, but you've really got to use it as part of your sales cycle and marketing cycle. That'd be my tip, I think.
Great. And now we've got a question. So these aren't flowing in any particular. I'm just picking the ones that are up there, Andy. So they'll bounce all over the place. So this is from Catherine Smith, who says, just a detail, do you think page URLs are significant to Google searches?
Not entirely sure what that means, unfortunately.
Okay, so it then says, sorry.
Oh, does it mean the web address, the name of the page, I assume?
I assume so. Catherine, did you want to just put a note on the chat if that's right, or just to clarify the question? I'll tell you what, we'll come back to that one in a sec, if you can just clarify. Oh, she's put, thank you, Andy, really useful. Okay, we'll come back to that one, don't worry. Where is the other question? There's another one here. So this question is from Cheryl about LinkedIn. So Cheryl noticed that in reference to what was on your presentation, there wasn't anything mentioned on LinkedIn, about LinkedIn. Is it worth investing in LinkedIn, do you think?
Again, is your audience on LinkedIn or not? If not, then don't worry. Even if the people you're trying to target have got LinkedIn profiles, historically, a lot of people on LinkedIn who have profiles are not actually on it very much. I mean, LinkedIn works on a cost per click or cost per impression perspective. So if you show the adverts and no one clicks on them, it doesn't cost you any money. The big problem with LinkedIn, though, because it's a B2B audience, if you're paying £3 a click on Google, you could pay £6, £7, £8 on LinkedIn. So again, for B2B, it can work very well, either in building newsletter, email subscribers, or sort of warm leads. But again, have a think about what's the value of a lead to you. If you're paying £8 a click and you're getting something like 10% conversion rate, then that's going to be £80 per lead. And if you then need 5 leads to get a sale, that's £400, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we've actually made a few videos and done some stuff in this before about, just looking at the numbers. So this amount of leads I get, this is the amount of clicks I get, so much it costs me per click, it's the conversion rate, this is the cost per inquiry, this is cost per sale, and do those numbers add up? And if you think LinkedIn looks a good bet, then it's definitely worth trying.
Great. Thank you, Andy. And sorry, Catherine has just clarified, yes, that is what I meant. So in regards to what you mentioned, page URLs and Google searches.
Yeah. So if I was trying to rank my page about web design in Bournemouth, then an obvious name for it would be Web Design Bournemouth, or web-design-bournemouth.com, .html or whatever. It definitely helps. It's not going to make you go from position 13 to position 3, but again, from a user perspective, if I'm searching for web design in Bournemouth and the page is called page1.html, and just visually, it's not going to look that great. So if you align the page name and the page title and description all to the phrase that you're trying to rank for, then you're going to increase your chance of A, getting the click, and B, going up the listing. But it's, of the list of 200 things that Google's got, it's probably around like 50 or 60. It's not going to be one of the big things you can do, but it's a nice to have, definitely, if you can do it.
Brilliant. Thanks, Andy. Okay, well, that's it for questions. I'm just checking on time, and we are pretty much on schedule, maybe just a couple of minutes over. We always try to finish about 1:45, 1:50. So Andy, thank you hugely for joining us today and sharing those tips. Really useful. If any of you've got further questions for Andy or want to have a chat with Andy, then just contact myself. So if you want to write this down, it's richard.byrne, no S, at dorsetgrowthhub.co.uk. Just ping me an email, and then if Andy is available, he's a very busy man, 3 kids and running his own company, but if you've got queries, then I can forward them on to him. So just a reminder, all of this is recorded today, including the chat. So you will get a link at the end of the day summarizing, well, it's kind of an edited video of the content that was covered and the slides that Andy showed. Okay. So thanks again, Andy. Okay, so I'm just going to share my screen and just wrap up and just tell you about a few other things that are going on that I think is useful for all of you on the webinar today. Okay, so just a couple of things we've got coming up. So as you know, so we are running, oh, can you see my screen? Is it working? Good. It's gone a bit crazy my end. So tomorrow we have our Grants for Growth webinar, which is being hosted by my colleagues Dawn and Julian. I think Dawn is actually on the call webinar today, as she was earlier. I don't think she's there now. So this is running with a similar format, hosted by us on Zoom, and this is talking about our grants that we have available for the Growth Hub. As it stands at the moment, our grants are geared at helping businesses to grow. Now, for a lot of businesses, growth isn't necessarily on their kind of agenda right now, but there still are some companies out there who are still trading well and looking for some extra support. So this little webinar just talks through our grants program in a bit more detail and how you can access it. So if you're interested in knowing more about that, then you can join tomorrow. Just sign up on Eventbrite. We've also got on Mondays, we've got our HR forums running in partnership with Aspirin and Trinity HR. So on Monday, they're actually going to be covering this as a subject, the Return to Work Challenge. So that's at 12:30. So if you want to kind of listen to some discussions and some insight on this challenge that is there for a lot of us, then Monday, that's at 12:30. And these forums, HR forums, run every Monday at the same time slot for the time being and until things transition, which none of us are sure when that will happen, but we will keep going with these to keep as many people informed as possible. And then also on Friday, I don't know if any of you on the webinar today have been involved in some of our Friday webinars, but our Chief Nick Gregory has just been doing updates from the government in terms of loans, grants, instructions, and just kind of doing a bit of a summary and detailing what that means locally to businesses. So Nick will continue to do that on Fridays, but he's going to make it a lot shorter. And then what we're going to do post that is actually do a bit of a networking event online. We're going to trial a brand new bit of software, which we're quite excited about, which will make the whole networking experience online as close as it can possibly be to a physical event. So if you're interested in that, to get an update, but also the networking side of things, then just register again on Eventbrite. And that should be quite well, it'll be a feedback experience for us to see if it's the right type of thing to do. But we do feel networking is something that we want to sort of move to, because that's what a lot of people are asking for. And I was only talking to Andy at the beginning of this call about networking and forming these little groups to help support each other. So we're going to trial that out and see how it goes. So if you want to join, please do. And then also we've just got another finance-based webinar, which is happening on the 21st, led by my colleagues Dawn and Julian again from the finance team. And this is just going to focus in on managing a company's cash crisis. It'll focus on things like insolvency. So for any of you here that want to kind of dig a bit deeper and just see some nice friendly faces who can help you along your way, give you some insights, then please join us on that one. All right, and just to finish off, so next Wednesday, I think Darren is also on this webinar today. So Darren Baker is going to join us, and we're going to just focus in a little bit more on some of the stuff that Andy's talked about on SEO and pay-per-click. And Darren will just kind of dig a bit deeper. So over the next few weeks, we're just going to continue on this digital marketing theme, take some of the core subjects that are involved in digital marketing and just do that deeper dive. So Darren's going to join us and just give his perspectives, and Darren is an SEO and pay-per-click specialist. So it just gives another rounded different perspective. So Darren will join us. So if you want to book onto that one, then please do. So that's episode 9 happening next week at 11 a.m. Okay, everyone. Sorry, that entered into a bit of a rattling through what's Dorset Growth Hub doing next. Now, I'm just highlighting what we're doing. We are funded and we are here to offer as much support as possible. There is lots of other things happening across the Dorset County and in Hampshire as well. WSX Enterprise on a website do list, and through our social channels, other stuff that's happening that other organisations are doing. Andy Headington, who's part of doing a talk today, is part of Silicon South, digital focused group, and Silicon South are running various different events, mainly for digital focused organizations, and that some of that is funded support as well. So there's loads happening. What we're trying to do is just pick key topics that we feel are most relevant, but it's evolving each week. So I can't give you over the next 4, 5, 6 weeks what we'll be planning to do, because it's evolving, and that's the whole purpose of this kind of adapting with it all, to try and get you the most relevant information. I'll stop blubbering. I'll stop chatting on. Hopefully today has been useful. Thanks again to Andy for joining us. If you want to join us next week, please do. Remember, you'll get the recording of this and the chat. Hope you all enjoy your day, and stay safe, everyone, and we'll see you soon.